there's an old saying in motorsport that goes something like, when the flag drops, the bullshit stops. This is something that I've always followed right through my motorsport career, because obviously there's a lot of talk going on before a race about how people say they're going to do things in the race, but then in a race it's always different. So that's what the saying actually means. But basically I started my career as a kid when I was probably 11, 12 years old. Always looked at it as a hobby. I never looked at it really to turn into a racing career. Reason being, in my younger years when I was in my early years of 5, 6, I used to watch my father, he used to race, and I used to also watch my grandfather, who used to do a little bit of rallying, and I always thought, you know, I would love to get behind the steering wheel. So it was eventually bound to happen.
Well, I've been racing for the last 15 years. How did it start? It started, as a kid, obviously thanks to the previous generation, my father, who, used to race in India back in the day. I had grown up watching him, and so I'd basically spent my childhood going to race the racing track at Sriperumbudur. And, always growing up thinking it'll be the same thing as a sort of a hobby of sorts, But, when we started in 2003, 2004, professional karting first came into India at the time, 2003. And that was my gateway to get in, just to test the waters, and things actually went really well and progressed really quickly from there. Where 2004 I ended up winning the national championship in both go-karts and cars, and 2005 onwards I was racing abroad, from BMW to A1 Grand Prix to Formula 2, and then moved over to sports cars, where for the last 5 years I've been racing with, representing Lamborghini, even won the championship with them in 2016. So that is my journey in a nutshell.
At the age of 11, I drove a go-kart around a go-kart track, and then I knew I would love to do this every weekend, but always thought of it as a hobby back then. And then it began to progress as I started to participate in local races, win some races, and then things started to get more serious. And obviously over the years I started to participate in many different championships in India and abroad. And then finally, or not finally, but eventually, when I was traveling with Arman for some of our races in the last 3-4 years, we started to discuss about how we'd love to see different things in Indian motorsport. More like a fun conversation, right? We'd always think, India can see this in motorsport, India can see that in motorsport, things that don't happen. But eventually we thought, we can make this a reality. Things are changing. We are starting to get support from a lot of people. So let's put pen to paper. And once we did that, then we realized X1 Racing League is born.
I mean, 2 IPL teams will have more players than what we have, and then our whole driver roster. So we have 32 drivers, but it's again 32 drivers from different parts of the world, not only Indian. So for example, to break it down for you, it's each team has 4 drivers, right? And out of the 4 drivers, one is an international male driver, with say, who's got experience of probably Formula 1 or a World Endurance Championship. Then you've got an international female driver. Some of them are actually racing in the Indy 500 this next weekend. And then you've got the Indian international drivers, guys like Narayan, Karun, who have plenty of experience behind them. And then you have the Indian domestic, which are the young up-and-coming guys who've been racing in India, who've been winning the championships in India, but who haven't had the opportunity to go abroad. Each driver in their own way has to prove themselves, but also they have to work at it on a team level, because why? It's not a driver-based championship, it's a team-based league. Now a team-based league is where the car scores points. So for a car to score points, both the drivers have to contribute. So one driver has to lift the other driver up, but they both have to perform to the same level, which means sharing all their knowledge and making that count on that given time.
recently did what we call the X1 Speed Summit, which was like a little sneak preview of what the X1 Racing League will be. So the journey so far, I've enjoyed every bit of it. Some parts have been stressful, especially when you're getting closer to an event and it's completely different to what events we are prepared for. Our mindset was completely different when we get into a race car, and your mindset's completely different when you're in the business end of things. So it is quite cool. I'm learning as we go on. Arman and I both are learning. We've got some good co-founders with us. Jay Pawar, for instance, he's very well politically connected, obviously, being the grandnephew of Sharad Pawar. Loves cars, loves racing. So he's a great asset to the company. We've also got Ravi Krishnan, who is our chairman, non-executive chairman. So he's also a great asset. He's been in the sportainment world for the last 20 years. So we're looking forward to the future. I think some good things to come. Basically, X1 Racing League, when Arman and I sat together and kind of worked on the formats, we basically thought that, you know, we need to get audience engaged in this. This is not Formula One. This is something very different, very unique. It's India centric. We need to get the Indian audience engaged. It's different. So what can we do? So the formats we then started to work on was to, one, get women involved and have women racing against men, because we know that in motorsport, once the helmet goes on, it doesn't matter who you are. You are a racing driver. So we put that aspect in and said that every team for one has to have women compulsory, at least one woman, if not four. So that was one key part of the format that we worked on. Another key part was to make the races short and exciting. Formula One is long. Most championships have long races where they 1 hour, 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours. And people tend to lose interest, and all of us have short attention spans. I'm not going to sit and watch like 2 hours of a race. So what we then decided to do is to do 2 short bursts of races in a day, where we have 30-minute race, 2 drivers per car, and halfway through the race, which is 15 minutes into the race, there will be a driver change where all the cars will eventually enter the pits, swap drivers to the driver who's waiting, and then go out and obviously finish the race. So that makes it very exciting, because then now in the pit stops, you're not watching just like tires go on and off, but you're watching drivers go out and drivers getting in. So it's very different to what the Indian audience is used to. They will be slightly longer than a Formula One pit stop, but then again, there's the excitement of a driver change.
Perception that of motorsport in India right now is that it's only for the elitists. It's it's not accessible for anyone and everyone, and that's why it's only for that select crowd. Okay, I agree, it is for a select crowd, yes, but it is. But what it's not, it is definitely accessible. That's one thing we're changing, and two, we're definitely changing the fact from it being an elitist or kind of a sport. Okay, because why? Because again, we are breaking it down and creating a ladder, a structure for people who are interested in motorsports and want to get involved. We're creating a grassroots to a top-end ladder, a route basically, where you can get there starting from scratch. And on the professional front, like with our esports program, where basically that's attacking the grassroots levels. So just a gamer could come there, win the esports league, and then get contracted by us and trained by Aditya and me, and eventually become a professional racing driver. So you're attacking that market as well. So we're going through all different sectors basically. And that is India centric basically. That's what's going to help the Indian market.
Very exciting.
X1 Racing League is something that can really bring back the excitement or the enthusiasm attached to such an exciting sport.
Oh my God, it was wonderful. The speed, it just picked up. I had so much fun.
Exactly. I mean, that's feminism at its peak. Equality. Everyone is in a team together. You got to trust each other, man. And that's going to be that. And you're going to be showing teamwork along the way. So that's awesome, right?
Fun, man. Lots of fun. And he was trying to brake late in order to, make me more nervous, which I enjoyed a lot.
Yes, it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Wow, look at this. There. And then suddenly you're taking off, and then it becomes really fun.